Okay, I want to show you how to do a no-sew block using this wreath. The reason I want to use this wreath is because it has a center area in it. The PDF that I created a few weeks ago has become outdated with the latest updates. So a few things have changed even in the no-sew steps that I want to talk about also. So let's get started. I went ahead and just brought up a wreath in a block. This is a 12 by 12 block. I think everybody knows how to do that. I went ahead and brought up a wreath inside that block. The next thing I'm going to do is bring up a pantograph pattern to go also in that block. So I'm at the add edit pattern menu. I'm going to add a pattern. This time it's going to be a pantograph. I'm going to use the current block. Right now that's all that's showing is the current block, so I'm going to use the current block. I'm going to go find a good design to put in as a background filler, and I'll talk about this a little bit on what I choose. I've got this design. I'm not sure, actually, when we were at MQX, Karen Thompson put this on my tablet, so I'm not even sure whose this is, but I know you can get it at Intelligent Quilting. It's called Scroll Work. But I like this pattern because it's nice and square. If you can see that it's got a nice square shape to it. I've also talked to some designers at MQX, hoping that we'll get more patterns. I hate saying Deb Geisler is the only one that has these types of patterns. I know Susan Mallett has some squarish patterns, but this is what I like to work with. Everybody's different, but this is what I like to work with. One of the reasons is because I can fill in the area very good with a square pattern. I talked about this in another video of putting in a pantograph within borders. So if you haven't seen that video, that's where I really explain what I'm doing filling in a pantograph like this. But right now all we're using is a pantograph to use as a background filler behind our pattern. So right now, default, it comes up at 12. Obviously, that's a little bit too big. So what I want to do to begin with is set that. I'm going to use a 4-inch on that. It's very detailed. I'm going to look at it. And I also want to say that a lot of machines stitch differently. This has a lot of points to it, little curls and points. However your machine can handle, some of these patterns you're going to have to run really, really slow because of the detail work. So, you all know your machines by now and how fast or slow. If you want to do something a little bit faster in the background, you may decide to pick a different pattern. If you're okay with it running real slow, then you can pick a little bit more detailed with more points, more detail to it. So I changed that to 4. But now if you here I talked about this a little bit in the PDF that's outdated, and I'm going to make another one. But what I like to do is zoom in, and as you can see, there's going to be a lot of jump stitches. Well, the bottom here actually fits in pretty good, but along the sides are going to be a lot of jump stitches. And I don't necessarily want to have a lot of jump stitches around my side. I really want the panto to fit in there nice and cleanly. In order to get that to fit in nice and cleanly, I use clip on. I will turn it on. When I turn it on, what happens is each pattern repeat is then proportionalized. Well, it was proportionalized before, but it cut off the edges when it got to 12 inches going across. So obviously this isn't a 4 by 4 inch square panto pattern. What this probably is a 4 by 6 inch, or maybe even a 4 by 5 inch. It's just not going to fit across evenly. It fits down evenly. We noticed that I said it was nice clean edges on the top and on the bottom, but going across, it's just not a 4-inch wide repeat, so we have to either change our height. I don't think we're ever going to be able to get this to fit in to have the perfect proportions. So what I'm going to do is actually skew this. Now, skewing a pattern like this, it's going to distort it, but many times these patterns, you don't really, they don't really look bad distorted. Actually, I've used this before. I was playing around with this at MQX in the booth, and it actually looks pretty good. I like to take it all the way until it jumps off. When it jumps off, I know I've gone too far, and so I will take the arrow back. Here again, view that other video if you're not sure of what I'm doing here. So I bring this up, and I have now the pattern and the panto that goes inside it, or that is going to be going around it. So I'm going to hit finish. Now, this is what's different on the newest update. Maybe some of you have tried this using the original version, but I talked on that PDF about thresholds, clipping thresholds, and if you didn't pay attention to that, well, I'm going to tell you about it again right now. Right now, the very first time this clipping confirmation comes up, what it's talking about is the outside borders. And right now, we don't have any jump stitches. Remember, I went ahead and clipped that and made it really nice and clean with those repeats so that it's all, you know, if I zoom in and look all around and pan around, you can see it's all nice and clean going across. We skewed it over, so we've just got, here's the first row, and that's where it ends. There's the second row, that's where it ends. So it's really nice and clean. So what's showing here, right here, is no jump stitch. If you had an interlocking pattern, you would have to have it clipped off in certain areas because it would go up and down, and you wouldn't be able to use this clean. It wouldn't come out this clean. Crosshatch is another example. It's just not going to come out clean. And so you've got to adjust your jump stitches. Right now we don't have any, and so I really don't want to even talk about it because I don't think you'll understand it because we don't have any. But this screen will come up again before we get ready to sew, and that's when I'm going to explain a little bit more about it. So I'm going to accept it. Right now we've got the option to do jump stitches, continuous, we can do jump stitches. It's giving us the option to tie off, to do jump stitches, or to do continuous. And since we don't have any jump stitches, I'm going to just set it to continuous. It really won't matter at this point. So I'm going to accept it. It's asking me again, do you want to commit to the transitions? We do. We want yes. Okay. Now we're getting ready to add a no-sew block. And I think if you can get it through your head that we are blocking out a section of this area to create this fill. Many times people are confusing these with patterns. They see the pattern, they're thinking they have to create another pattern to not sew it, whatever. We are creating a no-sew block. So on our design sew quilt, we have to add a block. We have to add another block. We don't want to modify or do any of that. We want to add a block. Here we want to go in. We've got our choice between standard, clipping, or no sew. We need to add a no sew block. So I'm going to click no sew. It says please select the patterns to be affected by touching one of their points. You can either select all and then deselect the pattern, which I find is a little bit harder, especially the way I set up the pantograph. For me, it's easier just to go up and down. Since I only have 3 rows, I just click on the outside, those 3 panto rows. That is what those rows are going to be affected when we do our no-sew block. So I'm going to hit continue. Now it says, how do you want to define the block? Well, let me walk you through some of the choices here so maybe you can understand the next sequence. There's a lot of sequences to getting a no-sew block, but I think once you have it in your head what you're doing, it'll just be click, click, click for you. I'm doing a lot of talking, so of course it's taking longer. Mark on, how do you want to define the block? Well, we don't want to mark on quilt.